For 11 years, Gloria Carter carried a key she never used. Her mother gave it to her with 5 words, "You'll know when." That was 11 years ago. Tonight, Gloria Carter did not go back to bed, because after 5 days of letters, lawyers, parked cars, and silence, Gloria Carter had run out of reasons to wait. She crossed the kitchen, opened the hallway closet, reached to the back of the highest shelf, found the box, put the key in the lock, and opened it. Inside was not what she expected. She sat at the kitchen table from 11 o'clock until 5 in the morning, with the key in one hand, and her cold coffee in the other, and the candle burning in the jar in front of her, and the hallway closet door visible from where she sat, 22 feet away and 11 years away at the same time. James is breathing from the back bedroom. Tyler finally coming in from the porch sometime after midnight, the front door quiet behind him, his footsteps on the stairs, the particular stillness of Naya deep under covers with the rabbit. The house doing what this house does, holding everyone inside it and keeping going. She waited until the house was completely still. Then she stood up. She walked to the closet. She opened the door. She reached to the back of the high shelf, and her hands found the box the way your hands always find things you have touched 1,000 times without meaning to. By feel, without looking. The way the body remembers what the mind tries to forget. She set it on the kitchen table. She sat back down. She looked at it for a while. A plain wooden box, dark oak, the brass latch gone green at its edges from years of sitting in a closet. Her mother packed this herself in the last weeks, when her hands still worked for careful things, when she could still choose what she left behind and how. She had wrapped it in a dish towel and handed it to Gloria without ceremony. "You'll know when," she said. That was 11 years ago. Gloria has thought many times about what she expected to feel at this moment. She has imagined clarity, certainty, some signal that would tell her the when had finally come. What she feels instead is tired and present, and like a woman who has run out of reasons to wait. She puts the key in the lock. She opens the box. The box is not full of documents. That is the first thing. Gloria has been half expecting documents. The way everything in this week has been documents, paper, records, the language of institutions arguing with each other over her family's life. What her mother left her is not that. There is a photograph, black and white, creased at one corner. A woman standing in front of a house that Gloria recognizes before she has fully looked at it. The house on Colfax Avenue in Glenville, where she grew up. Except this photograph is from before Gloria was born. The woman in it is young, maybe 30, wearing a good dress and standing on the front porch steps with her hand on the railing, and her face turned slightly from the camera, the way people stood for photographs in a time when photographs cost something. Gloria's grandmother. She has seen this woman in other photographs, but not this one, not this house, not this porch. Under the photograph, a small stack of papers, a lease agreement, handwritten on a form from 1958, a series of receipts, rent, paid in full, each one signed and dated going back to 1959, and a letter, typewritten, dated March of 1961, on the letterhead of a property management company called Hartfield and Sons, informing a Mrs. Evelyn Simmons that her rent would be increased by 40% effective 60 days from the date of the letter due to building improvements. The letter is formal and politely written and absolutely indifferent to the family inside the building it is discussing. And then, at the very bottom of the box, folded once, a handwritten letter. 2 pages. Gloria's mother's handwriting. Ink gone faint at the edges, but steady down the center of the page. The date at the top is April 2012, 2 months after her diagnosis. Gloria unfolds it. She reads it. She reads it twice. She sits with it for a long time. If this story is reaching you, if you're sitting with Gloria right now, the way she is sitting with that letter, please take a second and subscribe. Hit the like button. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. It means everything, and it helps this story find the people it belongs to. We're only halfway through. Stay with me. Outside, Cleveland begins to come back to itself. A garbage truck on the next block, a dog, the particular change in the light that says the sun has decided today it is coming after all. Saturday morning, day 5 since the letter. Gloria refolds the 2 pages. She puts them back in the box. She does not close the lid. She looks at the photograph of her grandmother on the porch steps of the house that has been gone for 20 years. She says, quietly, to no one in the kitchen. She knew. Then she stands up. She goes to the stove. She starts the coffee. She does not close the box. James finds it at 6:30 when he comes to the table. He sees the open box before he sees Gloria's face. He stops in the doorway. He looks at it the way you look at something you were not expecting to find. Not alarmed, but recalibrating. He crosses to his seat. He sets his coffee cup on the table. He does not reach for the box or look inside it. He asks how long she has been up. She tells him a while. James sits. Gloria sets his plate. She refills her own coffee and sits across from him, and she looks at the open box between them. Then she looks at her husband and she tells him. Her mother knew about the house on Colfax, what happened to it. She knew the shape of it, not the name, not the paperwork, but she knew the shape. James asks what shape that is. Gloria says, the same shape as this. The kitchen is quiet. A Saturday quiet, slightly slower than a weekday. The household's not yet fully awake. James picks up his fork. He eats. He looks at the box. He is doing the same arithmetic Gloria did at 2 in the morning and arriving at the number, and they both know it, and neither of them says it yet. He reminds her that Walter Briggs is coming at 10. She says she knows. He asks if she is going to show him. Gloria puts both hands around her coffee cup. She says she is going to let him get through the door first. James almost smiles. Just under it. Close enough. Marcus comes down at 7 with both folders. He stops when he sees the box. He stands in the kitchen doorway for a full 3 seconds, his eyes going from the box to his mother's face, to his father's face, and back to the box. He does not ask what it is. He has been in this house long enough to know when a question will answer itself if he is patient. He pours his coffee. He sits. He opens the first folder. Gloria tells him it is not what he is looking at. He starts to say something. She cuts across it simply. She will show it to Briggs when he gets here, not before. Marcus looks at the box. He looks at his mother. He has the look of a man whose entire nervous system is organized around information and who has just been asked to sit within arm's reach of a closed door and wait. He opens his folder wider. He starts going through his documents. He lasts 6 minutes. He says he needs to at least know whether it is about the building. Gloria says his name. Just that. He stops. He looks at her. She tells him to eat something. He gets up and makes toast. He eats standing at the counter. He does not stop looking at the box. Diane Foster arrives at 8:45. She does not wait for Briggs. She needs 20 minutes with Marcus before the meeting. She said so yesterday, and Marcus was at the door before she reached the porch steps. She comes in carrying a manila envelope, and she shakes Gloria's hand and says good morning in the particular way Diane Foster says things. Direct, warm, no extra words. She looks at the open box on the kitchen table, and she does not comment on it. She is a woman who has been inside enough families' kitchens to understand that the things on the table are the things that were ready to be on the table. She sits across from Marcus. She sets the manila envelope down. She lays her hands flat on it. Before Briggs gets here, she says, there is something she needs to tell him. She reached into the envelope and took out 2 sheets of paper, photocopies, careful with them, the way you are, careful with something old, and handled once and important. She set them in front of Marcus. He looked at them. He looked up. He said, "This isn't about the pension." Diane said, "No." Marcus picks up the first sheet. He reads it carefully. He sets it down and picks up the second. He reads that one too. He sets it down. He lines them up with each other on the table. A habit his mother recognizes, the way he organizes things when he is reorganizing his thinking. He says he was wrong about the pension connection. The word wrong costs him something. Gloria can hear it. Diane explains it carefully. He was not wrong about Midwest heritage. He was right that the name appears in both places. But the pension fund and the property company were not operated by the same people. They share a parent entity, but the pension loss was a separate event. Different management, different timeline, different mechanism. What happened to his grandfather's pension and what is happening to his family's building, they are related the way cousins are related. Same family, not the same action. Marcus is quiet. He is looking at the documents and his jaw is tight in the way it gets when he is rerouting something he has been certain about for 3 weeks. He says the gap in the chain of title is still real. Diane says, completely real. That does not change. Briggs has read it and he agrees. But the story Marcus has been building that Caldwell is the final piece of the same machine that took his father's pension. That is a more complicated argument than what they actually have. What they actually have is strong. The instruction is not to reach past it. Marcus puts his hand flat on the documents. He breathes. He asks what the sealed envelope says then. Diane tells him. In 1989, a Midwest Heritage representative contacted Rosie's neighbor about a voluntary sale. The letter makes a buyout offer on Eddie's house. Standard language, a little low. The letter is interesting because it uses the same address block format as the letters Caldwell Properties uses today. Same legal division template, 36 years later. What that tells them about institutional continuity is interesting. Whether it is legally useful depends on Briggs. Marcus absorbs this. He picks up the second sheet again. He says, "So it's not the smoking gun." Diane says, "It is a thread, a real one." Briggs will tell them what kind. Gloria, who has been listening from the counter where she is refilling the coffee, turns and looks at her son. She says, "A thread is enough to pull." Diane looks at Gloria. Something in her expression shifts, the specific shift of a lawyer who has just been reminded by a non-lawyer of the thing that matters. She says, "Yes, it is." Walter Briggs arrives at 10:03. He is 61 years old, and he looks like a man who has spent decades in rooms, deciding what things are worth. Not tall, not imposing. Careful. He wears a plain grey coat, and he carries a leather briefcase that is older than Marcus. And he shakes James Carter's hand at the front door with both of his, and he looks at James the way a man looks at someone he has read about on paper and is now deciding whether the paper was accurate. He comes into the kitchen. He sets his briefcase down beside his chair without opening it. He shakes Gloria's hand and Diane's hand and nods at Marcus. He sits down. He looks at the table, both folders, the accordion file, the manila envelope, and the open wooden box. He picks up his coffee cup. He holds it without drinking. He asks who found the gap in the chain of title first. Marcus says he did. Briggs asks how long it took. Marcus says about 3 weeks. Briggs nods once. He drinks his coffee. He sets it down. He tells Marcus to walk him through it, and Marcus does. He walks Briggs through the original transfer in 1989, the Sunrise Development bankruptcy in 1991, the Chapter 7 filing requirements, the federal trustee approval that does not exist, and the transfer to Caldwell Properties in 1993 that moved through a chain that was never legally closed. He is thorough. He does not embellish, he does not reach. He has corrected for the pension overreach, and he presents only what the documents actually say. Briggs listens without writing anything down. He does not nod or ask questions. He just listens with his eyes on Marcus's face. When Marcus finishes, Briggs is quiet for a moment. Then he confirms it. The trustee record is genuinely absent. Marcus tells him Patricia Okafor at the federal clerk's office confirmed it. Briggs says he knows Patricia. A pause. He asks how Caldwell holds the property now. What is his current instrument of title? Marcus opens the second folder. He finds the page. He slides it across. Briggs reads it. He sets it back down. He looks at the ceiling for a moment. The particular upward look of a man whose brain is doing something specific and needs the room to be empty for it. He says, Caldwell has a quitclaim deed from 2001, filed after a quiet title action. Diane says they believe it was improperly obtained given the unresolved trustee issue. Briggs says what they believe and what they can prove are different rooms. They will need to find the quiet title proceeding. They will need to know who the opposing party was and whether the gap in the trustee record was disclosed to the court. He picks up his coffee. If it was not disclosed, that is a different conversation entirely. The table is quiet. James, who has not said a word since introductions, who has been sitting with his hands around his own coffee cup and listening the way he listens, fully, with his whole body still, James asks, "What does that conversation sound like?" Briggs turns and looks at James Carter. He looks at him the way he looked at the folder, reading, not assuming, taking the full measure. He says, "It sounds like a cloud on title. It sounds like a challenge to his right of possession. It sounds like, if the court agrees, that Richard Caldwell does not own what he has been behaving as though he owns. The words land on the table the way words land when they are the exact words a family has been building for 5 days without knowing it." James puts his coffee cup down. He asks how long. Briggs says to file the challenge, weeks, to litigate it, months at minimum, possibly more. Marcus says they have 60 days. Briggs says he knows. He looks at Marcus with the particular patience of a man who has watched younger, faster minds run into walls. The 60-day letter, he says, is their immediate problem. It is not the only problem. There is a difference. Marcus opens his mouth. Briggs says, "Let me finish." Marcus closes it. Briggs explains it plainly. If they file a challenge to the title, they trigger an automatic stay on any eviction proceeding. They cannot be removed from a property whose ownership is under active litigation. That is the 60-day problem solved, not by winning, but by the filing. The clock stops the moment they are in court. Diane says they can do that within 2 weeks. Gloria sets her coffee cup down and asks, "And after the clock stops?" After the clock stops, Briggs says they find the quiet title proceeding. They find out what was and was not disclosed. And then they understand what they are actually fighting. He has not raised his voice once. He has not made a promise. He has not said the word win. He has spoken entirely in the language of process and sequence and the next careful step, and the table, James and Gloria and Marcus and Diane, has been leaning slightly forward since the moment he walked through the door without fully realizing it. Gloria reaches into the open box on the table. She takes out the 2-page letter in her mother's handwriting. She unfolds it. She sets it on the table in front of Walter Briggs. "Before you decide whether you're in," she says, "read this." Briggs picks it up. He reads it. He does not hurry. He sets it down carefully. He notes that her mother wrote it in 2012. Gloria says, 2 months after her diagnosis. Briggs is quiet for a moment. Then he asks, how long has her family been in properties managed by this lineage of companies? Gloria says her grandmother moved to the Glenville house in 1959. That building was managed by a company called Hartfield and Sons. Diane picks up her pen. Briggs says he needs to know whether Hartfield and Sons has any documented connection to Midwest Heritage Properties. Marcus already has his legal pad out. He is already writing. Briggs says, "Not today." He says it without looking up from the letter, still holding it in his hands. Today, he says, he needs to know this family. He needs to know who James Carter is. He needs to know where Rosie Washington fits. He needs to know about the car that has been parked across this street. He sets the letter down. He looks at the table. He needs to know the whole shape before he knows which door to open first. They have been living inside this thing for 5 days. He needs to understand it the way they understand it. Marcus says they have 60 days. James says, "Marcus," one word. Marcus stops. James looks at his son. The look is not a rebuke. It is something more like a hand on the shoulder, steadying, deliberate. James says, "Let the man work." Marcus exhales. He sets his pen down. He picks it back up almost immediately and then sets it down again. Briggs watches this without comment. There is something in the way he watches Marcus. Not impatience, not judgment. Recognition. The look of a man who has been that particular kind of certain before. He says to Marcus, not unkindly, "Everything you built is good. The gap is real." He is not slowing him down. He is building a floor. Rosie Washington arrives at 11. He comes through the back door with a covered dish. Something Ruth Ann called a Saturday soup, a thing she made every weekend of their 41 years together that Rosie has been making alone for 2 years now. From memory, from the smells, he knows aright. He sets it on the stove. He reads the room. He sees Briggs. He sits down without being told where. He looks at Briggs the way he looks at all men he has not met before. Patient, unhurried, measuring. He asks, "You the lawyer?" Briggs says he was. He is something else now. Rosie asks what that is. Briggs says, "Someone who takes families." Rosie considers this. He looks at James. James makes a small gesture, almost nothing. A millimetre of acknowledgement, which Rosie nods. He picks up a spoon and stirs the soup. He says Ruth Ann used to say the best doctors she ever met were the ones who sat down first, before they said anything. Just sat. He points at Briggs with the spoon. "You sat." Briggs says he generally finds it useful. Then Rosie says he knows something about the car. The table turns toward him. Marcus has his pen back in his hand before Rosie finishes the sentence. Rosie has been watching. Not all of them. one of them. The dark blue one. He knows that car. He has seen it twice in the past 6 months at City Hall, parking enforcement row, which means whoever is in it works for or with someone who has city access. Marcus says that could be anyone. Rosie says it could be. But city access and a property dispute and a building inspector named Soto who visited 2 properties on that block last spring. He does not know that those things are connected. He is saying he noticed them at the same time. Briggs asks how Rosie knows the building inspector's name. Rosie says, because he was on his porch when the man came, and he asked. Briggs looks at Rosie for a long moment. Then he takes his legal pad out of his briefcase for the first time since he arrived. He writes something. He does not share what it is. He says this may have nothing to do with the title chain. Marcus starts to say or it. Briggs says, or it may. He does not know yet. That is the point. They do not build the argument by connecting everything to everything. They build it by knowing which connections are load-bearing. Gloria, from the counter, asks, what does load-bearing mean in this context? Briggs says, the connection that, if you removed it, the whole structure falls. Everything else is supporting evidence. Only 1 or 2 things are actually holding the weight. Right now, they do not yet know which things those are. Gloria turns back to the stove, she says. Then that is what they need to find out. Briggs says, yes. There is something in the room now that has not been there in the same way before. Not hope, exactly, which has been in this room since Monday night when Marcus first spread those property records across the table. Something more, like traction. The specific feeling of a family that has been pushing against something they could not see and has just found the first handhold. Tyler has not come downstairs. Marcus noticed this at 9. James noticed it before that. Gloria has been tracking the ceiling above the kitchen, the sound of Tyler's room. Since Briggs arrived, there has been nothing. No footsteps, no movement. James excuses himself from the table. He does not say where he is going. He goes upstairs. The table continues without him. Briggs asking Diane questions about the quiet title proceeding. Marcus reading back through the folder, looking for anything that mentions the 2001 deed. Rosie eating his Saturday soup and listening to all of it the way Rosie listens to things comprehensively without writing anything down. Upstairs, James knocks on Tyler's door. No answer. He opens it. Tyler is sitting on the bed with his phone face down on the mattress beside him, and his elbows on his knees and his head down. He does not look up when the door opens. James comes in. He closes the door behind him. He sits down on the chair by the desk where Tyler used to do his homework, where a track ribbon from 9th grade is still hanging from the corner of the mirror, where a photograph of Tyler and Marcus and Destiny from some summer a long time ago is stuck to the frame. James says his son's name. Tyler says he can hear everything from up here. He didn't want to be in the way. James says he is not in the way. Tyler says there are people downstairs who know what they are doing. James says there are, and Tyler is still part of this family. Tyler picks up the phone. He holds it in both hands. He looks at it. He does not turn it over, he says. Deshawn sent him something Thursday night. He has not told anyone. James waits. Tyler turns the phone over. He opens the message. He hands it to James. James reads it. His face does not change while he reads it. He hands the phone back. Deshawn's message said, I know where to find you. 7 words. James Carter reads those 7 words and understands all of them. He says Tyler has been carrying this since Thursday. Tyler says he did not want to add it to everything. James says there is no everything, and then this is part of everything. Downstairs, there is a man named Briggs who has been doing this kind of work for 40 years. He needs to know about this. Tyler says it is not related to the house. Deshawn does not know anything about the house. James says, a man who knows where they live and has a reason to come here, that is related to the house. That is related to everything. Tyler is quiet. James lets it be quiet for a moment. Then James stands up. He puts his hand on Tyler's shoulder. The same hand, the same 4 seconds as yesterday morning, a thing James Carter does not explain or repeat. He says, come down. Tyler comes downstairs at noon. He sits at the table. He looks at Briggs. Briggs looks at him with the same unhurried reading he gives everything. Tyler takes out his phone. He tells the table about Deshawn. Not everything he told his mother. Not everything he told his father. The part that is relevant now. He said done. Deshawn answered, with I know where to find you. And Tyler believes Deshawn is not a man who says things like that without meaning them. The table is quiet. Rosie says, a man who answers, I'm done with a location reminder is not someone who respects the word done. Briggs asks whether this person is connected to the property dispute. Tyler says no. Briggs asks if he is certain. Tyler says Deshawn does not know anything about the house. He never asked. Briggs looks at Marcus. Marcus looks at Tyler and asks what exactly Deshawn does. Tyler says, money, moving money, accounts that look like nothing, a silence. Marcus says, Tyler's name, then brings up the shell company in the Caldwell chain, Sunrise Development. The way those accounts were structured in the 1991 bankruptcy, Briggs says, stop. Marcus stops. Briggs says he understands why Marcus's mind went there, but he cannot build that connection on what they have. What they have is a 19-year-old whose employer moved money through clean-looking accounts, and then the 30-year-old property shell dissolved in 1991. Those things may look like the same shape. They are not the same thing. Marcus asks how Briggs knows. Briggs says he doesn't. That is the point. Marcus is doing the thing investigators do when they are too close to a case. He is seeing the pattern he is looking for. The pattern may be real. It may also be two different things that look similar, because financial crime tends to use the same limited set of tools. Marcus sits back. He looks at the ceiling. He exhales. Gloria says, from the stove, is Marcus wrong to look? Briggs says, no, he is wrong to conclude. There is a difference. Gloria turns around. She looks at Briggs. She asks, what do you need from Tyler? Briggs says right now, nothing. What he needs is for Tyler not to respond to Deshawn at all. Not to meet him. Not to explain. Nothing. He looks at Tyler and says, if this man makes contact again, not a message, actual contact. Tyler tells his father that same hour. Understood. Tyler says, yes, sir. Briggs says, good. He picks up his coffee. Now, he says, the reclassification form. James takes it out of his shirt pocket. He unfolds it and sets it on the table. Briggs looks at it for a moment without picking it up. He says James has until Monday. James says yes. Briggs says James says if he doesn't sign it, the position goes to posting 30 years. Briggs says he understands what it costs. But if James signs an amended employment agreement after retaining counsel in a dispute with the same landlord who has a documented business relationship with his employer, Marcus looks up. He asks, Waite Caldwell and Lakeside Industrial. Briggs says, I don't know. He is saying, documented business relationship, or no. If a judge sees that James accepted new terms from his employer in the middle of a title dispute, it will be used to argue he accepted the full changed landscape of his relationship with Caldwell. Signing anything right now muddies the picture. Don't sign it until they have filed. James looks at the form. He folds it back up. He puts it in his shirt pocket. He asks, and after they file, if the job is gone? Briggs says, then the job is gone and they find the next thing. One problem at a time. The table is quiet. James Carter looks at Walter Briggs. The full weight look, the measuring look, the look of a man deciding the worth of something. He says, My son tells me you beat a Caldwell title argument in 2009. The case was sealed. Briggs says, yes. James says, what happened? Briggs says, the family stayed in their house. A silence. James says, are you in? Briggs looks at the table, both folders, the accordion file, the open box, the manila envelope, the unsigned reclassification form back in a shirt pocket. Gloria at the counter with the candle burning in the jar and the Saturday soup on the stove, and 31 years of a family doing what this family has done. He says, I'm in. Briggs and Diane leave together at 2 o'clock. Briggs with both folders, the accordion file, and the manila envelope. He has made 3 pages of notes in a handwriting that Marcus tried to read upside down for 45 minutes without success. He shook Gloria's hand at the door with both of his again. He told Marcus that the wrong turn on the pension connection was not a waste. It was how you find the boundaries of an argument. You push until you find the wall. He said this matter-of-factly, the way Briggs says everything. Marcus did not look entirely consoled, but he wrote it down. Rosie stays. He always stays. He is at the kitchen table with his soup and Nia, who came downstairs at 1 o'clock, announcing that the rabbit needed breakfast, and who has been sitting at the table ever since in that way she has of being fully present in a room that is doing something she does not entirely understand, but is interested in anyway. She has Briggs's empty coffee cup in front of her. She is looking at it. She tells her grandmother, that man took the papers. Gloria says he did. Nia asks if that is good. Gloria says, yes, baby. Nia sets the coffee cup down carefully. The way she handles things she has decided are important, she says. He had a nice voice, like he already knew what he was going to say. Rosie looks at Nia, then at Gloria, then back at his soup. He says, out of the mouths of babes. James is on the front porch. He is standing, not sitting. His coat is on. He is looking at Drexel Avenue the way he has looked at it from this house for 31 years. As something that belongs to him, not in the legal sense, but in the sense that matters more. The sense that cannot be recorded in any county courthouse. The sense that comes from 31 years of mornings at that window and evenings on these steps, and the particular way this block smells in November, the way the air changes at the end of the afternoon when people start coming home. Marcus comes out and stands beside him. They stand there for a moment without talking. Marcus says he was wrong about the pension. James says he was right about enough. Marcus says Briggs thinks there is something with the quiet title proceeding. James says Briggs thinks a lot of things and does not say any of them until he knows. A pause. That is a good quality. Marcus looks at his father. He asks if he is okay, James says. Ask me Monday. Marcus nods. He puts his hands in his coat pockets. They stand there. Down the street, 2 blocks away, a car sits at the curb. Neither of them reacts to it. They have both seen it. It is not the black sedan and it is not the dark blue car. It is a white one today. It has been there since before Briggs arrived. James says, you see it? Marcus says he sees it. James says, "Don't look at it." Marcus says he is not. They stand there looking at Drexel Avenue while the white car sits 2 blocks down and the afternoon settles into the block and the light changes the way it changes. In November in Cleveland, and the porch light comes on automatically at 4 because Gloria set it on a timer 8 years ago, and the timer has never been wrong. James says 30 years at that machine. Marcus doesn't say anything. James says, "I'm not going to sign it." Marcus says, "I know." James goes back inside. Marcus stays on the porch for a few minutes more, hands still in his pockets, looking at the street. Tyler leaves the house at 4:30. He tells Gloria he is going to Rosie's to help with something. This is true. Rosie did ask. Something about the garden beds before the hard freeze. A thing Tyler has helped with every fall since he was 15. Gloria watches him go. He does not have his phone. He left it on the kitchen counter, face down. She looks at it for a moment after the door closes. She does not pick it up. He will be back for dinner. He knows this house. He knows what dinner at this table means this week. He will be back, late afternoon. The house quieter now. Naya in the back room with the rabbit. Destiny's shift not over until 8. Marcus upstairs with his legal pad, trying to find everything he can on a quiet title. Proceeding from 2001. James in the bedroom, resting in the deliberate way he rests when he needs the afternoon to cost him nothing. Gloria is alone in the kitchen. She is standing at the counter with her coffee. The candle is burning. The open box is still on the table where she left it this morning. She has not closed it. She has walked past it 11 times today, and she has not closed it. She is not sure yet what to do with what her mother wrote. It is not the document Briggs needs. It is not the argument Marcus is building. It is not a deed or a filing or a gap in a chain of title. It is her grandmother on the front porch of a house that was taken, and her mother's handwriting on 2 pages saying, "I carried this so you wouldn't have to. But you're going to need to know the shape of what we've been living inside. The shape is older than this house, and the name at the center of it keeps changing. But the shape doesn't change." Gloria looks at the box. She picks up the photograph. Her grandmother, the porch, 1959. She looks at her grandmother's face, turns slightly from the camera, hand on the railing. A woman who knew the shape, who tried to carry it alone. Gloria sets the photograph back in the box. She does not close the lid. She picks up her coffee. She stands at the counter and looks at the kitchen, the table with its 31-year history of decisions, the jar with its candle burning, the way it has burned every morning for 11 years, the dish towel on the oven handle, the window with Drexel Avenue going on outside it, the way it goes on. She is thinking about Hartfield and Sons. She is thinking about 1959. She is thinking about a building inspector named Soto and a meeting she has not been told about, and a man named Conrad Likes that she does not yet know exists. She is thinking about her mother saying, "The shape doesn't change." She is thinking about Walter Briggs saying, "Load bearing." She does not know which of those threads is load bearing yet. She is not Marcus. She will not write it down, will not organize it into folders, will not build a document that connects one name to another. She will do what she has always done. She will hold it in the particular way. Gloria Carter holds things, quietly, completely, without performing the weight of it. And she will wait until she knows what it is ready to become. The candle burns. The kitchen holds its 31 years of them. Somewhere in this city, Walter Briggs is at a desk reading about a quiet title proceeding from 2001. Diane Foster is pulling records on Hartfield and Sons. Marcus is upstairs filling another legal pad. James is resting with his coat hung on the chair and the reclassified form still folded in the pocket. Tyler is on his knees in Rosie's garden, turning the soil over before the freeze. And the white car, 2 blocks down, pulled away at 4:15 and has not come back. Not yet. Naya came into the kitchen at 5 and found her grandmother standing at the counter. She climbed onto the stool and looked at the open box on the table. She looked at the photograph inside it. She looked at her grandmother. She asked, "Is that somebody we know?" Gloria looked at the photograph for a moment. She said, "That is your great-great-grandmother." Her name was Evelyn. Nia studied the photograph with the full attention she gave. Things she was deciding were important. She said, "She looks like you." Gloria looked at the photograph again. She had not seen it in years. Really seen it. The way you see something when you are ready to look. She looked at her grandmother's hand on the railing, the set of her shoulders, the slight turn away from the camera as if she had been looking at something down the street before the photograph was taken and had not entirely turned back. Gloria said, "She does." Nie seemed satisfied. She climbed down from the stool. She went back to the rabbit. Gloria stood at the counter for a moment more. Then she went to the table. She closed the box. She left the key in the lock. The key has been locked in that box for 11 years. It has been out in the world for 11 years before that. Gloria's mother carried it, and now Gloria carries it. And one day, not today, she will know what to do with that too. She picked up the box. She did not put it back in the closet. She set it on the counter beside the candle jar, where she can see it in the morning. That was enough for today.